Over here on the left, this is a typical fishing camp. We used to have hundreds of these up and down the river before the storm. Most of them got wiped out. This guy towed his out and brought it back after the storm. We take oil barrels that we buy from the refineries that have been dented. We tie them together to make a pontoon float, build a platform, and then from that you can build a simple little hut for hunting or something like this with insulated windows and it's wired for electricity. Either way, it's a free-floating fishing camp. It's only this one, you only can get to it by boat. Now we have people that live out in the middle of the swamp that live in these things full time as well, out the next 4 rivers over. They're a little bit larger than this. They have generators on board. They come in once a week to get gas to run their generators a little bit at night. And they live off the land, folks. People that live out in the middle of the swamp, they're born and raised out here. They hunt, they fish, they trap, whatever. That's what they do. If they make enough money for some groceries, beer, and cigarettes, they're happy with their life because they're living in the swamp where they were born and raised. Now, remember that house I showed you? This is where his house was right here on the left. You see the foundation and the plumbing. Wow. He had a nice house. He just didn't tie it down to the foundation. It just picked up like a... They say he was on the roof when it went down. I don't know. I wasn't here. It was a Category 5 on Saturday. I got the hell out.
Quella che galleggiò lì.
They know where to go tutta la vita.
C'è chi ci nasce.
Esatto, e preferisce vivere.
You see this second house here, this lady's still dealing with problems from Katrina. She finally raised her house up about 5 feet to get above for the next storm. Now guys, do you see this birdhouse over here on top of that pole? Does anybody know what kind of a birdhouse that is?
Purple Martins.
Purple Martins, that's right. Now you put that birdhouse at least 10 feet above ground on a pole, and the purple martin, which is a kind of a swallow, they'll just find it and they'll start living in it. Now the reason I pointed out, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. Everybody's got a purple martin house. Why? It's free insecticide. Each one of those birds comes out at dusk, and each one of them will eat up its weight in mosquitoes and bugs every night. I know people out here that have 4 and 5 of those birdhouses around their property, because at night it helps make things a little bit easier for you. It keeps the bug population down. You come out here along this strip about 8 o'clock at night, and there's about 300 or 400 of them just flying around. They're all eating up all the insects. Now this big white boat you see up here, this is a shrimp boat. It's called a Lafitte skiff. It's designed down in Lafitte, Louisiana. It is a shrimp boat that is used for shallow water shrimping. That means right off the Gulf. He doesn't go deep in the water out in the Gulf, just right off the coast. You see those towers on each side of the cabin. Those towers will rotate out and drop into the water, and those metal plates at the top will then direct the water into the nets. The nets, they call butterfly nets. He'll go out right off the coast, find a school of shrimp, drop the nets down, scoop up the shrimp, bring them in, and sell them at market. It's that easy. Now the problem is that last year, you know, we had the BP oil spill, so he hasn't been out for over a year. But I think he got a settlement from BP because he built a new deck up there, so he must have got settlement. His claim must have come in, I guess. This is an airboat next to him, you see. Now that's not really a passenger airboat. The whole front of that airboat is an open deck, which means that that airboat was probably used to take equipment out to the gas wells out in the marsh. Those boats, because they run on air, can actually run over dry land as long as there's enough moisture for the hull to slide on. You see you have the dock there. See how we use the oil barrels as a pontoon float? That's a dock right there. Once an oil barrel is dented, even though it's airtight, the oil refineries don't want to use them anymore because the volume measurement has been compromised inside the barrel. So we buy them real cheap.
Okay, I've got a question. Airboats run on air?
These things? Yeah, there's a propeller there, and there's a very, very, very loud motor.
Yeah.
And that propeller is just like an airplane. It just pushes it.
There must be gasoline too.
Yeah, he has a gas tank. It's a gasoline engine, and believe me, when he cranks it up, you can hear the thing for 5 miles. Wow. Which is why I discourage you from taking an airboat tour in the swamp. You don't see anything. It's a thrill ride. They can't go up under the trees, and you can't see any wildlife because the alligators can hear you coming and they get out of the way. You know? Now this house you see here, this is what we call Acadian-style architecture. You see that beautiful sloped roof and that covered front porch there? Before electricity and before air conditioning, that covered porch was the most important part of the house. our summer months go for well over half the year. At the height of the summer, back from the late 1700s all the way up when it was the hottest, you lived on your front porch. You cooked on your front porch, you slept on your front porch, you socialized on your front porch, so the wider the porch, the better. That's the design. Of course, nowadays it's not. It's a moot point because we have air conditioning out here. Now, at the height of Katrina with the floods, the flood waters were 1 foot above the top of his doors. This was a mess out here.
È tutto sommerso, è tutto sommerso.
This guy here is actually a professional fisherman. He goes out in the Gulf, catches fish for restaurants and stuff. But you see the blue pools up underneath? He raises fishing bait. For the people that go out recreational fishing, they come out at 6:30 in the morning and he sells them the bait. That's how he gets his beer and his cigarette money. Now this bridge we're going to go under here, this bridge was built in 1931. It's a lift bridge. You see there's counterweights on either side of the bridge. The whole middle of the bridge lifts up, just like an elevator. Now the reason it was put in here was that the main industry out here in the swamp before 1960 was cypress logging, cutting the beautiful cypress trees for lumber. When those logging companies brought their boats downriver, they were stacked well over 25, 30 feet high with logs and material. They had to have a lift bridge to get all of that under the highway.
Can you point out a cypress tree?
I'm going to talk to you in depth about it, I promise you. Now this bridge still works today. They lifted it about 3 weeks ago. A lot of the local kids like to swim off it in the summertime. There's not enough traffic for a full-time tender to lift it, so if I call 4 hours ahead of time, a fellow come out here and lift the bridge for me.